Welcome to Kingdom Women Enterprise Women Empower Wednesday. I am your host, Teresa Scudder, and with me I have I'm the founder of Kingdom Women Enterprise, and I have my daughter with me, who is Naija. My sister Lisa is with me. Naija is our COO. My sister is our Director of Committees. And welcome again to Women Empower Wednesday.
Hey, so today we'll be talking about overcoming different types of abuse with our special guest, my sis, Asila Davis. Woo!
Asila, she got it.
All right, so come on, Stella, come on in. You're muted. Let's get you unmuted so you can come in, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, because she's also an author as well. So yeah, come and introduce yourself to everyone.
Hello, my name is Asila Davis. I am the founder of Agape Water International Safe Haven, which is a nonprofit organization out of the state of New Jersey. We have 3 programs. Our first program that we have since 2017 is called Pink Star Diamonds. Pink Star Diamonds is a mentoring group for girls and young ladies ages in middle school and high school. We also have Young Men of Valor, who we do the same thing with young men, middle school and high school as well. But my baby, my passion is the Hearts program. It's Heart stands for Hands Everywhere, Adapt and Relate and Teaching Strong. That program is a Stand in the Gap program for single family households. But we specialize in families who have a parent that is deceased, a parent or guardian that is deceased or incarcerated. But we stand in the gap for that parent. We may give the other parent a break as to babysitting, as to cooking. We may come in and clean, just to give that parent that's there with the kids by themselves all of that time, just giving them a mental health break. All of our services are free. And yeah. Oh, also I have a book called Her Eyes of Awareness. And in my book, it talks about overcoming different types of abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, and how to overcome it, how I saw things, how I see things, and how God sees things, and how we can get over those things without taking medication, through different type of meditations. And we'll go into that a little bit later in the conversation.
Yeah,
A question. Wait a minute. Before you get started, now, I have a question. Now, for your Standing the Gap, because I know we're going to go over your book, but you're Standing the Gap. Now, is it just for people like single parent home, or for people that's just incarcerated, or do you just help people in general?
So the main thing is to help single family households, single parent households. But we do specialize in the households if they have a deceased parent or if they have a parent that's incarcerated, meaning that we have experienced those as well. Having a deceased parent in the household, me and my board, somebody have experienced that, or having a parent that's incarcerated. But we all have experienced being a single parent as well.
Okay.
All right. I think that's really awesome because I guess in society there's like this thing where like they feel like people shouldn't have, like, parents shouldn't get breaks. Like, them your kids, you gave birth to them children, you're responsible for them kids. If you wanted a break, then you shouldn't have had children. But I think it's really awesome that you do give those parents a break, because sometimes it can be overwhelming, especially when you have had a hard day and you just need a moment to gain some sanity. But you got little munchkins,
Hey, I know, like even now, my kids are grown. I have 4 kids too, and I was a single parent too. So I get that. I raised my 4 kids. I actually worked 2 jobs. Sometimes they had to watch themselves. I give them money. I said, look, this is some money. Get y'all some dinner. I'll be back tonight.
Mhm.
Because I know how it is. And like I wish this program was around when I was raising my kids because then they probably had a little bit better supervision, a little better supervision, especially during the times when I had to work and I didn't have childcare, or they are at that point now when they are a little bit old, when they older and they can watch themselves, but still they still need that adult supervision around to make
Mhm.
sure that they're not doing things out here that they should not be doing, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
So I think that's an excellent program. I really do. That
One of the
does so
things
that.
that one of the things, Teresa, that you said was that you had to work 2 jobs,
Mhm.
right? So, you work in 2 jobs, you come home, you're tired,
Yes.
and you still have these kids. And the thing about it is you might need a nap. You might just want to sit in a bubble bath for a couple hours, where we would take the kids and take them to the park. We may, take them to the park, go cook for them, take them to sporting events, things like that. Getting really to helping childhood obesity, because we get the kids out. We want to get them out of the house,
Hmm.
so that they're not behind the video game, so that they're not behind the television. Our focus is to really get them out of the house, into a sport, into some, if they like music, whatever it is that they are interested in, getting them out of the house, getting them to some type of entertainment for them,
Hmm.
where the parent that's home can have that break. Because as parents, even if we have 2 family households, we need a break. Even if
Right.
it's 2 parent
Right.
households, but it's even more for that parent that is by themselves, working doubles. Especially, look at all the prices of everything going up.
Right.
You have
Right.
a parent, let's say you take a parent, a male or female, doesn't matter. They're doing double shifts to try to pay for rent, try to pay for food, try to pay for everything, and they don't have a break. They're falling asleep at
Yeah.
work, taking naps at work just to get that mental break. Sometimes we need a mental break from hearing the kids say, "Ma, ma, ma,
Trust
mommy,
me, I
mommy."
know.
you know,
I know,
it's
cause
a lot.
yes,
It's a
cause
lot.
I know, like with raising my kids, like I said, they are grown. And everything else, but even like raising them and everything, it is, and it could be very stressful, very very stressful too. Having to go through that by yourself, and you know, sometimes we don't pick all the great partners in the world. Sometimes, and then sometimes, by the time you find out that they wasn't the greatest partner in the world, it's too late because you got the kids, and and I'm the mother. Like, but I know sometimes in my mentality, I had these kids, and I know I have to raise these kids, and even if I have to do it by myself, I'm going to do it. That
Right.
kind of thing, and I'm gonna do all that I can to make sure I keep a roof over my kids' head and everything else. And you do be needing a break, because I know there's plenty of times when I used to come home late. I'd be like so tired because I had to get up. Like one time I remember coming home, and I know it was nothing but God that really got me home. I was so tired that somebody thought I was drunk the way I was walking, because and I don't
Mhm.
drink. I don't drink. I don't get high or anything like that. But I was so tired, and they was like, "You drunk, ain't you?" I was like, "No, I'm just tired." And then I get a couple of hours of sleep, and then have to get back up and start that grind all over again. So yeah, you do need a break. I mean, not Asia. She practically had to raise her baby sister, raise her baby sister, because I worked to try to make sure they had. So it's good that you started this program. Like I know a lot of mothers even now that like need help, like a release, or just sometimes they may just have a single parent that's not always mentally steady to watch them correctly either, and they need some help. So this is a really great program. I'm glad y'all started that program. Maybe y'all need to merge some of y'all little program out here to Arizona, because I got 3 little grandkids that y'all could take out, because I get tired of babysitting, tell you the truth. My youngest daughter, have 2 kids, and she's She goes to school and she works. She go to school during the day and she work at night. So the burden of babysitting is on me or, not Asia, whoever's in the house at the time kind of thing. And so we need a break just from babysitter. We need a babysitter to help us
You need
from
a babysitter
babysitting.
to help us babysit.
It's true because we all need that reset button.
Yeah,
You
we
know,
do.
we need that reset button, and it's being a parent is fun, but when it comes down to responsibility and raising your children upright and in the right way, sometimes it becomes burdensome. Not the fact of being a parent, but the duties of it.
Right. You
The
got that right.
duties of being a parent, being a good parent. You know, and just wanting to. Sometimes the parents want to go to the park, and the kids, like, I did have a family who we stepped in. The parent, she had to run some errands and didn't want to take the kids with her. But this is a time where we can help the kids learn how to cook things, make peanut butter and jellies, and things where they don't have to cook on the stove, where they can still be safe and stuff like that. It's
Right.
we try to implement safety and hygiene and all of that stuff included as well.
Yeah.
I think a lot of like parents and adults, they suffer with mental health issues in silence, and especially
Yes.
with women who suffer from postpartum depression, and then they're doing it alone and they don't have that kind of support and stuff. And I know, hearing about this one young mother who was even reaching out to the father of her children and really was giving a cry out for help. She had postpartum depression, she was going through depression and stuff, and she had three, and she was like really crying out like, I really need a break, I really need someone to help. And she got to a point where she couldn't take it anymore, and she took her own life and everything.
It is very serious. It's very dangerous. People really don't know have the understanding of mental health. It's very important that we really educate ourselves. More to me, it's more especially Black women, because we do carry a lot of stuff. We carry a lot of stuff. We was taught to carry now the households.
Right.
The roles have changed, and we have to turn those roles back to where it was before, so that all of the pressure is not on the woman.
Right.
I think there's been some like weird thing that has been placed, especially in Black community, where getting help and going to therapy, like, I ain't crazy,
Yep.
it's like so
It's true.
true in Black communities,
That
but
is so
everybody's
true.
suffering in silence. But nobody wants to get help because of pride, or it's just looked as being shameful, and it's like our family business is our business, and getting help is like, and not even just Black community, just brown communities in general, because I know in some Latina communities it's the same kind of thing. It's like, we don't go see therapists, like, we suck that up and tough it out, because that's just what we do. We all have problems. We don't need to go see this strength because we're not crazy. Strengths are for crazy people. Like, why do we have that mentality? Like, who has taught us that?
I just think that a lot of it comes from growing up in a Black home, because I can feel some of your vibes concerning being a single parent, but a lot of it don't touch me too much because of the fact that I had to do it too, and I guess with the help of God that I really made it through. So it's a little different when it comes to me, when it comes to raising my children in a single home, because I did raise my kids in a single family home. But a lot of the struggles that a lot of other people talk about, my struggle was was a little different. I'm not saying that I didn't have the struggles, because I did have it, but I try to limit the struggles in my life. You know, mine was mostly financial. It was really more of a financial struggle, but because of the fact that I was always the oldest in my family, so maybe I knew how to organize things and make things a little more easier for me once I had my children, because I went from being the oldest in the household to right into motherhood because I was a teenage mom. So I already knew how to, you know, take care of kids and do this and do that and do everything in the home because I was the oldest. And my mom put some of those burdens on me. So when I became a mom, I already knew how to do those things. So it was really more of a financial situation with me. But even with the finance, I just learned how to take care of my business, and whatever I had to work with, I worked with it. And whatever I didn't have, I just learned how not to have it and not to and do without. So when it came to me raising my kids, I'm not going to say it wasn't a burden and it wasn't hard, but maybe I just adapt to it. And it was just that you have to do this, you have to do this. Whatever you have, you take care of your bills. Whatever's left, that's your play money. And if you don't have nothing left, you just don't do it. You know, I didn't have no one to look out for my kids. So everything had to be rearranged. I couldn't work during the day because I had to stay home because there was no one that could take care of my kids, and I didn't have the money to put them in daycare. A lot of the help that a lot of the young ladies have today, they didn't have it when I was raising my kids. They had it, but it was on a low scale, and it was a lot of things you had to go through to get it. So I learned to just, okay, I can't work. So I set on welfare, and I got welfare for my kids, not even food stamps. I just got welfare money. So once they got into school all day, then it was okay, now I could work. But then I still couldn't work during the day because when they got sick or they needed to come home, someone had to be there. So I had to learn that I couldn't work during the day. So I had to work night shifts. So I was home during the day for my kids, getting them ready for bed in the evening, and then had to be ready to go to work at night. And that was my routine until my children really were in junior high school, where I can work during the day now because they were old enough that I could send them home in a cab, or they could come home and stay home until I got home. So a lot of the situations that a lot of parents go through now that are single parents, I did have them, but they wasn't maybe to the extent that most parents do go through. So my frustration may not have been as burdened as a lot of parents deal with now. And then even when it comes to me, sometimes I have to really feel this compassion and really feel where this person is going through, because of the fact that, like I said, maybe because I came from being the eldest of my mother and father children and being a parent at a young age, it just seemed like everything just flew from being the eldest and just being a parent, and it was just all blended. So it was like I'm just really doing the same thing, but
it felt normal.
now they're my children instead of my siblings. So a lot of things that I hit, because my daughter, she has three, but I've helped her with all her children, babysit all of them until they got to school, everything, did everything for them. Washed clothes, got them ready for school, got them into school. I did everything. And now that she doesn't have that help, everything is so stressful for her. And I really believe a lot of it is stressful because she never even took the time to take the advantage of all the help she had to get herself into a routine for when she would have to do this by herself, that she would have this routine. And I think a lot of parents or a lot of single people don't get a routine. So sometimes things are really chaotic because there's no structure and there's no routine. And I always told her, you need a routine, because if you don't have a routine, your day can get away from you. And before you know it, you've been had the whole day gone and you've never accomplished anything.
Yeah,
So
but
if you don't have a structure and a routine, then you can't complete things. So even when it came to me, even watching my grandchildren, my sister know I had a routine every morning, and these wasn't even my children. My children grown, but I'm watching my grandchildren. So here it is. I'm getting up every morning at 6 o'clock, getting myself dressed and ready for when the kids get ready to get dropped off to me by 7:15, 7:30. But I'm still preparing things like I did when I had my children.
but
I got
Lisa,
clothes already.
but even in the routine, during that time when you had a routine, even with me, I had a routine with my kids too. But even with parents that have a routine and things that like you get up, you got your little routine, you do this every day. Even in that, you still be like, okay, I still need a
Still
day
need
off
a day.
from these doggone
You
kids.
you
You be
be
like a
needing
whole
that.
zombie. Like you're just
You
like a
do be needing that time
like a
to your,
robot just doing stuff out
but
of just, you just come into a cycle of just doing stuff,
being just you
doing,
do.
Mhm.
but it's like now you don't have a life. Because
And that's what it became,
a lot
because I never had a break. See, I never had no one come and say, oh, I'm gonna take care. I had to take care of my kids. My mom was still working, my dad was still working, my sister and brother was teenagers in high school, getting out of high school. They had their own life. I never had a break. So I had to learn how to do things with my kids. And then, if I couldn't do it with them, sometimes they did it along with their friends. But my life went from being the big sister, the oldest sibling, helping with my siblings, to raising your own children by yourself, and then to helping raising your grandchildren. So then when it got to that point, and I had already helped my daughter, then it was like, I'm not doing it no more,
You
because
know what, too?
it's been my life. So now I wanted that time to myself. Don't call me. Nope. I done did it all. Okay.
You know
I
what,
don't
too?
know.
Statistically, women who have that responsibility at such a young age to take on the role of watching their siblings, they do become teenage parents very early, because they don't know that it's something to do with mental health. Like just listening to you talk, you might have not known at such a young age that you was mentally going through something. Now
Mhm.
it was like, it's almost like a rebellion. I don't have to take care of these kids no more. I got my own
No.
kid now. You know what I
Or
mean?
no, or
So now it's like,
I don't want to take care of no more, because I done did it already. So don't even
right,
ask me no.
for generations, you did it with your siblings, you did it with your own kids, then your grandkids. So now it's like, if there was a program like mine that would have stepped in with your parents, let's
Mhm.
take it back to let's take it back 3 generations with your
Yeah.
parents. That would have gave your parents that break, right? To where
Mhm.
you didn't have that all that responsibility like that. And
Yes.
then you would have been able to have that same break. Because instead of it being generational, I look at those as generational curses,
Curses.
because
Yeah.
those are things that is put on our families that we don't even realize that it's a generational curse. You know why? Because we have been taught to cope. We
yeah,
have been
Mhm.
taught to
like
cope with it,
normalized.
not complain,
It's
right?
like yeah.
Normalize it.
Yep.
And
It's
it's
like
not
normal,
normal. It's not normal for us
because
to,
I never had a childhood,
You're
to
right.
be honest.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
See,
You never get
right.
see, when it came to my kids, because I never had a childhood,
There you
I
go.
I didn't want them to experience that. So I allowed them to have a childhood. I never put my daughter as a responsibility for my son, because that was not his child. It was my child. But because growing up and I was the eldest and my mom and dad both worked, I was responsible somewhat for my siblings, because, one parent would be going to work and the other one may be sleep or just coming home or whatever. So I was the one who got us up and made sure we got out in time to school and get to school. We walked to school together and walk home together. I was the one that made sure when we got home, let's start our homework, because by then my dad was coming in, because my mom was already gone. by the time we got off, and my dad was coming in, to be there for us, but I still was the in-between person until one or the other one was there. So it just, it just flowed over once I started having my own children, because I never really had a childhood.
I do want to.
The things that some people say, oh, we did this as kids and we did that. And sometimes I sit back and I be like, well, I ain't never did none of that,
What you was gonna say,
I
Philip?
I do want to add to that, because I'm the third oldest of 12, right? And we grew up in the inner city. And with that being said, I had a responsibility for my siblings too, right? At, such a young age. So my responsibility that I was believing that I had at 12 years old was being molested by my uncle, right? So
wow.
This is where some of the abuse came in at, because I thought at 12 years old, still being that overseer for my siblings, protector, babysitter, whatever you want to call it, that I still had to protect them. So I thought in my 12-year-old mind to take the abuse so that they don't get abused, not knowing that all of this stuff is mental. It all was playing a huge mental part on my mind, which I didn't know at the age of 12. Yes. I just thought, I'm going to protect my siblings. I'm going to take this abuse. It is what it is. But as I got older and I started going through stuff like when I had my own children, we're talking about abuse, right?
Right.
And not realizing that I was really abusing my kids by holding them hostage. You know what I mean? And when I say holding them hostage, I didn't let them go have a childhood like other people kids. I was more protective over them.
Protected, yeah.
Because I didn't want them to go through what I went through. And then if I would have gotten help, my kids could have had, I would say, like a more normalized childhood. Because everything I did, I surrounded it by my kids, because I thought I was going to protect them, until I really start getting a relationship with God, knowing that even if I'm not there, God can protect them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice stuff. You don't notice stuff because I didn't grow up in a church. You know what I mean? I grew up Muslim. So I didn't grow up with a relationship with God. So and this is stuff that's in my book as well. I didn't know these things. So I was, it was just being abused mentally, abusing my kids mentally. We think of abuse a lot of the times, we think of a physical act, somebody getting punched, somebody getting hit. But, there's more to it than that. Right. I believe still that I'm a great parent, but I was holding my kids in the house hostage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like how
that you had that protection.
Not saying that I'm not a good parent, but being able to educate myself more on abuse. Where it's not going to be a domino effect.
Yes.
Learning to let go and let God, and not just to be a cliche,
Well, I had to learn that too, because of the fact that I really raised my daughter, oldest son, her oldest child, like he lived with me, even though she brought the clothes and stuff, but I did all the parenting stuff, the day-to-day activities, getting them up, taking them, sending them to school, helping with homework, feeding them, all this, everything. So when I did move from Jersey and came to Virginia, it was really a hard thing for me to let go of that, even though she would say, well, he's my son. And I'd be like, yeah, he is, but you're not the one that raised him though. I'm the one who raised them. So I had to really learn to try to let it go and stop trying to hold him, because I had to, it was really hard for me. I went through a battle with this. I really went through a really physical battle with this. But when I was praying to God about it, he let me know I gave them kids to him, even though I kept saying, why? But he let me know I gave them to her.
Are you guys originally from New Jersey?
Yes, we are.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. And so I was like, and he said, I have to, I could take care of him. And I also realized, there's some things in our life that God will allow us to go through, even though when we look at it or we see someone going through it, we might be saying, they shouldn't have to go through this. There's no way that they're too young. But sometimes there's things that God will allow you, even as a child, to experience and deal with, because of where he wants to bring you and where he has you to
Yeah,
be. And
that's so
then
Amen.
true.
you're gonna have to see it or experience it for yourself, but he gonna help you through it. And I
Amen.
realized that even though my grandson, I love all my grandkids, but because I'm the one who took care of him, it was like, oh, I can't let him go. Oh my God, well, because she's this way and she that way. But the Lord had to really deal with, and it was really, really hard for me. I'm telling you, it was very hard. I
Yeah.
cried because of the fact that it was like, if I'm not there, then it ain't gonna work out right. Not,
That was the
not
thing with me too.
yeah.
When because my grandkids was living with me one time before and with my daughter, and I I just the thing is I just feel like I didn't raise you this way to be that way or do that thing. So why are you doing that with your kids? And your kids need this, and so I had to tell her to leave my house because like I would get up and I was the one that's making their lunches and stuff. And she'd be right here in the house. She would be in the house, but I would be the one that make their lunches. I wanted to make sure they have it. And then I just realized that, because they in my sight and I see this, it was adding more stress to me because I wanted to make sure they had I had to make their bottles. I was up in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, changing their diapers while she laying in the bed with them and stuff.
No,
So I had to make her leave my house. So I didn't want to because I knew that I just felt like she wasn't going to care for them like they should be cared for. So, but in order for me to release that from me and that burden from me, I had to tell her to leave my house. So I couldn't see it because as long as I'm seeing it, I'm going to step in and do it. And I'm going to continue to step on and do it, even though it was a burden for me. So I was like, girl, you got to go.
Yeah,
But and you're,
something I realized something that God had to deal with me on is like when we are put in those type of positions, we create a lot of dysfunctional and unhealthy relationships. Because what we do is we get used to those roles, and so then we don't know who we are outside of those roles. So it
right.
becomes a way that we identify ourselves, and then we end up with codependency issues, and then we're over sacrificing, and then we also need to control. Like we're trying to prevent other things from happening, so we're trying to control it. Really what we're doing is playing God. We're
Mhm.
trying to be their Holy Ghost. We're trying to be their Jesus Christ, their Savior, and we're trying to be their God, their Father, the one that's telling them what they need to be doing, and we're trying to control it and hold the whole universe in our hands while we're being overwhelmed, why we're
Mhm.
unhappy, why we hate having to do it, but it's like we can't help ourselves but to do it is because we have lost our own personal identity trying to be things for other people.
Mhm.
And that is things that we need to be delivered from, and
but
that's what
sometimes
I'm like.
God can put you in, he can put you in a position to be there for the people, but then we don't know when the position is
Yeah,
ended
It's
and we still
completed.
be holding
Right.
on.
So,
And
Asila, is that the reason why you wrote your book? Is that the reason?
So the reason why I wrote my book, y'all, is it was during COVID. Everybody was quarantined, the world was shut down, and I was in prayer and I heard God say, write it and write it down, write everything down. And he started giving me like the chapters, reminding me of stuff that I've been through, and was just showing me how this is gonna help young girls, it's gonna help women. Um, People are gonna get saved through this, through your testimony. It is your story. And that's why I wrote the book. I never saw myself writing a book. I've never been like a writer.
Uh-huh.
I've always did really well with talking.
that's
So
me.
some of the
Can't put
book I
nothing
had
on
to,
paper.
yeah, some of the stuff I had to actually record,
Yeah.
and then go back and write it, like listen to it again and go back and write it. So yeah, that's the reason why I wrote the book, because God
Okay,
told me.
just give us a little bit about your like what's to look for in your book.
Yeah, so some of the stuff you could look for in my book, it talks about when I was molested as a young girl. Also, it talks about how I was hanging out with a bunch of friends and I took some ecstasy pills, and how I was almost electrocuted and raped. It talks about how I went through different type of abuse with my children's father. It talks about from being sexually abused, physical abuse, mentally. It talks about all in different stages in my life. From a little girl up until I was 37, how long that is, and now I'm 39 and I'm, my healing process is taking place now, doing different speaking engagements, writing my book, speaking to different people about how to get out of domestic violence situations and, stuff like that. So
not to cut you off. I just lost my train of thought. Your book, how can people get your book?
So I can put my email in the chat. If you email me, I can mail it to you. If you want a signed copy, you can email me. I can send you a signed copy. You can pay through Cash App, or you can get it right off of Amazon. Her Eyes of Awareness on Amazon. The book is $20. And if you get it off Amazon, the only thing it won't be signed, but it's the same exact thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
I just wanted to say,
I wanted to send it to a couple of people.
I'm so proud of you, Asila. Hello, everyone that's watching us live on Facebook. Just want to address the audience.
yes. Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Lisa, your daughter gave you a shout out and had a couple of conversations with you and was saying, when it was coming to parenting, a lot of women feel exactly how you felt.
Her daughter's name is Amelia.
Yeah, my cousin Amelia. We got a Shar, and then we have our sister Althea and Regina Davis. Let's say hello.
Hello, Regina Davis. That's my aunt. Hello. Is that Shar Handy?
Yes.
Hi, Charmaine. Thanks for joining.
This is our shout out time.
You got all the family out there now. Come on, family.
Yeah, but I get that what you were saying as far as like being in an abusive relationship, because I was in an abusive relationship as well, with Naija and her father. I was with him for 7 years, and and we was actually engaged to be married, and the Lord was because I got saved really like when I was 15, 16 years old when I got saved. And then I stepped away from the church because Teresa wanted to do Teresa kind of thing. And during that process, that's when I hooked up with Naija and her father. And the Lord even said to me then, he was like, if you think things are bad now, how much worse do you think it's going to be if you marry them? And I was like, you know what, Lord, you're right. So that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
Okay.
That's not happening. Yeah, and so I know it is a hard thing to when you in a relationship and it's abusive and it's not healthy, but I think a part of me was if I just show them that I love them, or if I just show them that I'm here for them, or if I just show them that things can be better, that they're going to change.
They're going to change. I can change you. I can help you.
That was what my mentality was at that time. Okay. And then I had to realize that, okay, can't nobody change this person, first of all, but God, and they had to be willing to want to change, right. But if they have that mentality that they don't see that there's nothing wrong with what they were doing, then, then they're going to continue on. And I know that they didn't feel like anything was wrong because of the simple fact, he even said to me that he grew up where his mother and stepfather would fight and things like that, which his mother was more of the instigator one, because the father he wasn't one. He was more like his stepfather was more defending himself because she was more of the abusive one, was his mom. And so he was and they would get into these fights and where people bleeding, they clean up, and then they'd be like, come on, let's go out to breakfast. So he thought things like this, that was normal. Okay, we could get into this tussle and fight and black eyes and bloody mouths, and we just clean up and all is well, and let's go have dinner, me, you, the kids, and stuff like that. I'm like, no, that ain't normal. I had to, like, that's not normal. No, my mother and
Mhm.
father, they got into their arguments and things like that too. But even as a kid, I was like, that ain't normal for people. Who wants to wake up every day fighting and arguing? And then, who wants to wake up like, and get into this thing where now, I'm scared to go outside because I'm thinking you out there and you might attack me. I could be walking my kids. Who wants to live their life in that mindset? No. I was
Mhm.
like,
You know what? And
no.
some people do that and don't even realize that they're doing, because you know what? I was like, like what Sister Scylla was saying about how she was trying to protect her children, but the way that she was being with her children, I was being like that with my own self. I was being abusive with my own self. I was purposely keeping myself in the house and isolating myself out of fear of people doing things to me, trying to keep people from hurting me. And like, eventually I start thinking, oh, I'm just an introvert. I just like being alone, kind of thing. But really, no, I was scared. I was afraid. And like, the Lord had to really show me that, no, you were doing this because you're operating in the spirit of fear. You're trying to keep yourself from being harmed, from being abused, from being sexually assaulted by people, and from being physically abused by people, because it was becoming my everyday life. So I figured, if I stay in the house, if I stay in my room, then I won't get hit, then I won't get beat, then someone won't try to touch me, someone won't, sexually assault me. If I hide myself here, if I, am the first one that goes to school, then I won't, confront my bullies. If I'm the last one that leaves and hides until everyone goes, then, I won't be sexually assaulted by the boy in school, kind of thing. And so I was hiding myself, keeping myself isolated, trying to protect
Heck yeah.
myself. But
Mhm.
then it was also causing depression in my life, and also always being a constant fear that someone's going to get me and things like that. It gave me anxiety and stuff. Like, I would always feel like shadows, or like someone is like near me. I was afraid to be alone in rooms with like male or another male teacher. As soon as like they would enter into a room, I would get nervous and immediately assume this person might try to assault me. Like, I need to get out
Mm.
of here. And so literally always living in a constant state of fear and stuff like that. And like, things that I was doing, I didn't even realize I was, coping. That was my way of trying to cope with the things that I was experiencing. And then even with like, you know, a lot of people will say, like, if someone goes through, any kind of abuse and stuff like that, then that they should, get over it, or get over it quickly, or sometimes, like, and I didn't realize that, I experienced sexual abuse and some kind of abuse, and didn't even realize it happened, or I kind of like shield myself to forget that it even happened.
Shut it down.
But
Yeah.
that
Back to my
now,
life.
Asia, I went through that process too because I don't know what I was listening to. I was listening to somebody, and then it just made me look back over my life, over some things and incidents that happened to me, like from when I was 12. No, no, really younger than I was 12. I would say like I was maybe like 8 years old, and like being touched and stuff when I was 8 years old, and like as a couple of times, and even as I got older and being touched, and so, and it brought back, because like when you get older, like I don't know if I just block a lot of stuff out of my mind. Like even today, like my kids be like, "Mom, you," I'm like, "No, I don't remember." Like people like from Jersey that I see, they be like, "Oh," I'm like, "No, I don't remember." And I think, I don't know if I just built up a wall around me or something, and that a lot of things I got blocked, like blocked off, and I don't remember. But then like as years go by and certain situations happen, like things start coming back to me, like things that happened to me when I was younger, things that happened to me as I was getting older and stuff like that. And like up until like maybe I was like a teen, being touched and things like that, where like people had molested me, raped me, and things like that. And like I never told none of my family members about. I just kept it to myself because you just go on with life like normal. And I was like, and then the Lord, really just now bring it to me. Maybe that's the reason why I got into abusive relationships. That's the reason why like there were certain people I dated,
You
like
adapt.
even
Yeah.
yeah, like every relationships that I had, they were not normal relationships. Either they were abusive or they were alcoholics, drug addicts, kind of thing. And like the Lord is this like maybe because of those situations that is like bringing it up to me now.
Mhm.
So
It was a familiarness, like anything that was abnormal seemed normal
yeah,
because of what had happened.
Yeah.
But and a lot of times these things do. Sometimes we experience things in our life that sometimes we don't tell our parents, or we don't say anything to people and we keep it to ourselves
Mm-hmm.
because we just feel like maybe it's better off not to say nothing, or whoever the abuser was made us feel like we bet not say nothing. And we grow up and sometimes your parents don't even know that you have experienced these things, or these things has happened in your life. And I used to always be aware that when it came to my kids, because my mom, she told us, we didn't know when we were younger, but as we got a little older, like my mom used to always say to us that she was abused by her uncle and she was molested, her and her sister, who was real close. They were like 2-3 years apart, but he molested them too. And she had like she had no respect for men. And she, told us once we got older and she got saved and we were saved, she told us how that a lot of the problems that her and my dad had when they was married, it was because she had no respect for men because of what happened to her when she was young. And the abuse of her being sexual molested made her have no respect for men, even though my dad wasn't abusive to her, whatever. He may have been a little ornery man, grouchy, but he
still
took
is.
home. Yeah, he took care of home. He worked every day. He never hit on her, anything like that. But because of the things she went through, she never was healed from it. And she really didn't get healed from it until she got saved. And the Lord dealt with her with these things and everything. And so when she, used to tell she used to tell me a lot of it, and some of the ways that my mother act when she was married to my dad, I found out that a part of me had that kind of aggressive spirit that she had when it came to certain things. But when I got born again, I realized it was something that I didn't want in my life, and I used to tell the Lord I didn't want to be like that. Like I didn't want to have that type of disrespect or anything, because I found it to be I don't know, it just didn't seem right to me, even though I couldn't pinpoint what that spirit was. So some of the things that she went through, it brought on that in her life. But over time, like once I became born again and I, used to pray, I used to always tell the Lord, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like my mom. I don't want to be disrespectful to men's or whatever. But at the same time, I don't want them to just disrespect me either. I'm not going to accept disrespectfulness either. But talking about abuse, I never really dated men that abused me because I wasn't going for that. But I did end up marrying a man who was verbally abusive, when things didn't go his way, or whenever, he felt like that he wanted to just, talk junk or whatever he felt like he was doing, he would be very abusive to me verbally. But even in that, the I didn't I knew it was verbal abuse, but because of the fact that, I could be quiet, but you catch me, I always got that fightness in me. So I wouldn't accept it from him, and I would tell him, like, if you can't respect me, then you have to go. I'm not going to sit here and allow you to just keep, bringing your whatever the issues or things that you're going through. You want to put them off on me because I'm not the one who's given it to you, have done it to you, but you want to take it out on me. I don't want to accept that, and I'm not going to accept it. But I do know what it is to be in a relationship with people who do verbally abuse you. Physical abuse I never went through, and maybe you could call that verbal and mental abuse because sometimes, when people do that, it can deal with you or mess with you mentally. I just don't think that I dealt, it bothered me so much mentally. It was more just that, oh, you want to talk junk, you gotta go. I ain't dealing with it. So to really say how I felt in it, I just, always came back with something. It was like, oh, you want to talk junk to me? I can talk junk back, and then I can do anything even greater. I can get you up out of here and be done with you. So that's how I dealt with it when it came to him. But when the marriage was really coming to like an end, it was just like, I just didn't want to deal with him no more because of some of that situation of him, being very verbally abusive. And plus the other things that I went through with him being, on drugs and stuff. But I just think that a lot of times things that we have dealt with in our childhood, it tends to cause us to adapt or cope with or deal with other things or be attracted to other things in our life that may bring more harm.
We get
Yeah.
Right.
that
Yeah.
Familiar spirits.
that,
Yep.
and it just
Yeah.
normal, and we don't realize why we're attracted to it. Okay?
Yes.
Like that's when you get the like cycle of abuse happening, where you leave one abusive relationship and then you end up in another, and you're just like in this constant cycle. Like, why do I
Yeah.
keep ending up in this place? It's just that something in that person is just familiar, and things like
Mhm.
that.
Right.
Something like I'm starting to realize too is just like, mental and emotional um oppressions and things that we feel, and even the abuses that we experience, it is very generational. It happens from one person to the next person to the next person, because even with the anger and with physical abuse and stuff like that, great great grandparents was abusive, and then grandparents was abusive, parents was abusive, and then I even myself was seeing where I was with all the things that were happening to me, that even myself I was becoming physically abusive. And then I'm like, I don't want to be like that. And so, it really did take God to deliver me, to help me see, oh, you're becoming the very thing that you hate, because it became like a natural instinct, because that's what I seen, that's what I did, kind of thing. But I start seeing like, okay, there's a pattern in the bloodline, and that this is something that's happening generationally, that it's not being confronted, and so it's just getting passed on and passed on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, and it do. You always say, like you said, I don't want to raise my kids the same way like my parents did me, and then you do wind up falling into a little bit into those habits, and you before you know you saying things that your parents used to say to you, you're doing things that your parents used to do to you. Yeah, so yeah, it is.
Some
It is.
comments from the live. So from Tashira, she said, we didn't talk about it then, but now we do. Congratulations to all of you for your truth and transparency transparency, God is moving us forward. And then we got Lady J. She hopped on and she says, being abused as a child definitely shapes our perspective and influence the people we choose to be in relationships with and later.
Mhm.
Um,
It do.
and we got Shabira had joined us. Lady J continued to say it created a high level of insecurity in me, and I allowed people to mistreat me. Then eventually, it created the opposite, where I would lash out and be the one ready to fight and hurt everyone. And then um, my cousin Amelia said, hurt people unless you do the work. And then Lady J said, thank God for his healing and deliverance. He shows us ourselves and gives us understanding and why we are the way that we are. So
Yeah.
shout out to Prophetess Bailey. Shout out to not forgive me if I'm chopping up your name. I'm gonna just say Nye Young. Miss Young.
My cousin Naima. Hey, Naima.
Naima.
Oh, okay.
Look,
Hi,
all your
Naima.
family is
Oh,
here.
fam,
Okay,
right?
That's right.
come on,
You gotta love the
family.
support. You gotta love
Oh
that
yeah, I
support.
miss my cousin Devin was on, and then Miss Melissa Vines.
Oh, that's Sister Missy. Okay, hey, Sister
Sister
Missy.
Missy. Oh, she said, so proud of you, Estilla.
Oh,
Thank you.
We proud of Scylla too.
we are proud.
I'm proud of
So
y'all too.
I'm gonna get
Billy
that
says,
book.
blessings, everyone.
I think I need to send that book to all the women's in my family.
I'm telling you.
Amen.
Because I mean, and it's crazy, and this, and the fact that we're all family members, and so we get to see, and just having like conversations with my mom, just a few weeks, we're like seeing, okay, this is kind of like a generational thing. You felt this way, I felt this way about you. You felt this way about your
Yeah.
mom, and it's just traveling throughout the generation. So even emotional feelings towards our parents have become generational, and then experience sharing the things that I experienced, and then finding out that my mom also went through those same experience. And then this is the first time I'm hearing that that my own grandmother was sexually abused. And so I'm like, man, this really is something that's going on through generations. And even with my father being abused, and then his mother was abusive, he was abusive, and so it's just generational. And I think that's also like a thing that isn't really talked about, is that men too are abused by
Yes,
women, and it's not
Yeah.
um highlighted or seen as bad,
as
because
yes,
man, it's like, oh, she's a girl, you're just being like, what, it's
a
still
wimp or whatever. Yeah.
right. So like, Asela, what would you say about abuse and men, and why is it taken so lightly compared to women being abused by men?
I would say because there we go again with more generational stuff, right? Men are taught, little boys are taught that women, they're taught that women is.
You don't hit women, and
I'm trying to think of the right word to say. It's the fact of the matter of that. Stop it. You can't.
she's the weaker vessel.
Idolize. I'm gonna say
Oh,
idolize, like they idolize women. When stuff happen with young boys and they looking at girls' butts and stuff, they get a pat. They get a pat. Oh, right, good job, man. Yeah, you're not gonna. The thing with men is a lot of people say you're not gonna be gay, but just because a little boy is looking at a girl's behind doesn't mean that they're not gonna be gay. So they get high fives and pats on the back at a young age for doing those type of things. So when it's done to them, it's they're not looking at it like that something wrong is being done to them, unless it's man on boy or man on young man or man. If it's a woman and a man, an older woman molesting a younger boy, it's almost like, hey, high five. So
Yeah.
All
Oh,
of
she like you. You got that. You got that. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah,
And it's not seen as sexual
that's
abuse.
sexual abuse. Yes,
And it's shameful. And I'm like, it is like, okay, if you had an adult male teacher having a sexual relationship with his young, student,
son. So,
be
yeah,
immediately, ostracized and seen as bad. But if you have a adult female teacher dating her male student, it's just like, oh yeah, you got the bad, the teacher
yes.
the
You
baddie,
got
like,
You know,
that. She
it's
wants
like
you.
that even now, even if they are adults, it's still like that. Because if you have a man that's dating a younger woman, you know, it's kind of, they look like, okay, that's the man thing to do, And when you have that older woman dating a younger man, they be like, oh, you know, she's a cougar. She's this, and they both grown. But I think a lot of stuff like that too comes from back in society when older men marry younger women
And
at
the
the
family
age of
gave it to them.
14. They be in their 20s, mid 20s, and they marry these 14-year-old children and things like that. I think a
Because
lot of that come in that play too. And but far as like women beating up on men, that kind of thing too, I think um it's not talked about because I think a lot of men are told to suck it up. Men don't cry. How can you let a woman? It's the embarrassment for them to even come out to say that you let a woman beat you up, or you
yeah,
let a woman, or it's even sometimes they feel like they might go and get laughed at, that kind of thing. So a lot of far as sexual abuse with men, because men have been sexually abused by women too, even older, and they don't come out. They have been raped by women. There's men that have been raped by
exactly.
women and stuff, and they don't talk about it because they be like, "Well, how did you allow that to happen? You a big
Mm,
grown man. How you let this
mm.
woman rape you, or how you let this woman beat up on you? That kind of thing." So I think a lot of it with men is embarrassment from them to come out and talk about
And admit it.
the abuse that they go through.
Exactly.
um,
Exactly.
so we got some more comments in the live. So Sister Tanika joined us. Congratulations again on being a grandmommy. How you doing, Sister Tanika? Then my cousin Devin says mental abuse also causes you to hurt yourself because you take all the hurt in and build it up to where people, kill themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Unfortunately, Sister Asilla, her service is acting up and her phone is dying. Her phone is dying. So we would like to say, thank you so much, Sister Asilla, for
Yes,
joining
thank you for joining
us.
us. Yes, thank
Yes.
you.
If you can, because she's still up here, so if you can still hear me, if you can just text me
Send the link.
the link to where you can buy your book, where it explains more of her testimony, and where she talks about the different types of abuse and how to overcome those different types of abuse, so
Mm-hmm.
that this way I can drop it um
Mm-hmm.
in the chat. But yeah, I find that people don't take it seriously, especially when it comes to men. They don't really think or see
Yeah,
it as abuse.
that is so important as it is if it was a woman.
Yeah, it's like if a woman, ties you up and took advantage of you, it's like, oh, that should be like seen as cool. But
Mm-hmm.
it isn't. It isn't cool, and it is mentally, damaging. I
Hmm.
know men who were, sexually assaulted and sexually abused by, even girls their age, and they didn't even realize how much it traumatized them.
Mm-hmm.
Until I start pointing out um clear signs that you're traumatized, because I know, like, for me, when I was being, I didn't realize it until recently, when I was being sexually abused and stuff, I wasn't taking showers. I wasn't washing up because just the thought of being naked made me scared. Being alone and naked made me scared. I was disgusted with myself. I felt myself to be gross and didn't want to even touch my own self. And then just experiencing certain abuse, certain areas, or just to be in certain areas were very traumatizing to me, and I didn't like being there. And so, like, when I would talk to certain young men and stuff, and I'm like, why don't you like bathing? And they didn't really couldn't understand why they didn't like bathing. I'm like, have you ever been touched before? And then for them
Mm.
to be honest and say, yeah, well, this girl touched me, back when we were like in class. I'm like, yeah, you're it's a sign that you are traumatized and you
Mhm.
weren't okay what happened to you. And it's okay
Mhm.
for you not to be okay with that. You
Yeah,
know,
Exactly.
yeah.
But
A
you
lot
know
of
what?
people.
I also, not to cut you off, Teresa, that I also like kind of sometimes I think about it like if you find some people who have been like molested or touched or messed with when they were young or kids, sometimes it seems like their appetite for sex is like outrageous, meaning that either they become over sexual, like always want to have sex, even though they have experienced this, but maybe they identification or their process of trying to get over it, they feel like, oh, this is what I need to do in order to get over what has happened to me. So it's like, oh, because you touched me when I was young and it was a violation to them. When they get older, they tend to use sex as a weapon or sex as a way to, overcome maybe the hurt that they felt back then, or you know the loneliness, or no one defend me or protect me. So then they use the sex as a weapon. You find like maybe they real, you
definitely,
know
definitely, that was definitely the case with me. And I can honestly say, like, for me it was like, okay, I was used to people sexually abusing me and sexually assaulting me, and so I was feeling like, I didn't have control. Like, someone took something from me, took security, and someone was taking control of me. And so, and then experiencing a lot of rejection and things like that. So it's like, okay, I felt like the only thing that people really want from me is my body. So if I give you my body, maybe you'll love me. If I give you my body, maybe you'll be kind to me. And then sometimes it was me trying to gain back the control I felt like I lost. So it was like, I would play mind games with men. I would purposely seduce them to bend them to my will to get what I wanted from them. And then I had to be on top. I had to be on, in control of that, so that this way I feel like I'm getting to
your control
overpower
back.
someone else
Yes,
because of someone doing that to me.
yes, yes.
Then, I would get into relationships and stuff like that. And I would end up getting raped in relationships and not seeing it as rape because of the fact that, okay, I'm dating this person or we have had sex before. And so, maybe he didn't think, I would start trying to make an excuse why
Excuse
when
me.
I
Yeah.
told them no and they forced themselves on me, why it was okay. Well, maybe he didn't really think I meant no. Maybe it wasn't that serious. No, he took advantage of you. You told him no. You made it very clear. I'm like, the fact that you're laying there crying is a sign
Hmm.
don't want this. And the fact that he kept going or did what he did anyway, he knew what he was doing. And so it took me time also to realize, I was also getting in a pattern of allowing myself to be raped by men and men I was dating or men I had messed around with once before. And now it just made that person feel like they had the right to my body whenever they wanted.
You wanted it.
And I think when my mother told me about her being molested by her uncle, I don't know, maybe it built a wall up against me, because it was like, even if you meet someone for the first time, and if they just, came to the left when it came, like, it was like, if you just say you just met a person for the first time and you're going on a date, and just say, oh, they took you out to dinner. If they even tried to make that dinner seem like, oh, because I took you to dinner, now you owe me sex. Oh, it was a problem for me. It really was. It was a problem for me. And so I always had a guard up, like, with it, even though I never was sexually abused, but it was just like, I dare you to even think that because you brought me a meal, you just assume that we supposed to go have sex. Okay, well, that's not happening. And, I didn't ask for this meal. You offered it. So I don't owe you anything.
I didn't know.
This
wasn't
so,
this wasn't
It was not an agreement. I did not sign up for this
contract.
Yeah, so anytime a man even attempt to do that with me, I always was like, oh no, that's not happening. So anytime I went on a date with a man or anything, I always made sure I had me money to get myself back to where I needed to go. Case he wanted to act stupid, because he wanted to think that because he took me out to eat, that we was going to the motel or hotel or whatever you wanted, the Holiday Inn, and we wasn't doing that. I can get home, because I never would put myself in that position, because I was in that position one time with someone, and I was like, you could go, because I can get me home. Mm-hmm. Believe me. So they left. And I was like, goodbye, because we are not going to the motel, because I had no intention on going with you. And even though I didn't have a way home, but because I knew people and God made a way for me, I always said to myself, oh, that would never happen again to me. I'm never going to put myself in this position again. And I have had several dates where men thought that. And I said, excuse me. And like, I asked them the question, what made you think that because you took me out, that we have to go to the motel? Why do you think that? And he was like, they didn't, because I asked them the question, why do you think that? And he was like, oh, well, no, I said, but you do think this, because you're driving to a motel and I'm asking you, where are you going? And you looking at me like, if I'm supposed to know, we supposed to go to the motel after you took me out for breakfast that you offered to take me. Oh, can I take you out? Okay. But now you think that we supposed to go to the motel. I'm not going to the motel with you, mister. I had no intention on going with you. And if that's what you think, I'm sorry, because you're not getting it. And you don't have to take me back.
Mr. Man, I never said I was going to give you no booty.
Yes, I never promised you that. And the man really had
to... Mister.
Yes. And the man, you know what? He had to really say to himself, I am so sorry. I assume, yes, and that's not the right word. Assume, you know what comes out of assume, right? A whole lot of words. ASS, me and you, and all that. So it's not. And so he had to really apologize to me. And he said, I'm sorry. And he brought me back home, and it was no offense or nothing, but I made him, because I was like, we left the little IHOP place and we driving. I'm thinking,
Oh, he took you to IHOP? Wait a minute. And then what did he take a booty call? It wasn't a fine dining. He took you to IHOP. What kind of mess is that?
Took me to IHOP, and then he started driving So I'm looking at where we going. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe he going somewhere else. And then he goes start pulling up into this. So I said, excuse me, where are we going? And he looked at me and I
It
said,
wasn't even Red Lobster. He took you to
yes.
IHOP and wanted booty.
Right.
I said, oh no. I said, excuse me, sir. I sure did. I said, excuse me, sir. You think because you took me out for breakfast, this is where we going and you're going to get sex from me? So he looked at me because I guess maybe he ain't never had. Oh no, I'm going to have this conversation with
Yeah,
you.
man,
I said, well,
I'm
I'm
like,
sorry.
I still can't get over this IHOP thing. That's why I can't get over it. He took you to IHOP.
Are you
And
hungry?
then he took you to IHOP and then expect for you to give up some booty with an IHOP meal. It wasn't even fine dining. Like,
No,
you know,
it wasn't
there
even, you know, you ain't
Lady J said, no, not I.
yeah.
I mean,
I
it wasn't even Sizzlers. He didn't even
He
take
took
you
me
to a
to
buffet.
IHOP.
These were the buffets, all you can
Okay.
eat.
He took me to IHOP and was pulling up into the motel. And I said to him, oh no.
Wait a minute,
I
and then it
never
was a
thought
motel,
that.
not even a hotel. So then he really thought you was cheap, didn't he? Because he took you to IHOP
But
and he
I
took
tell
you to a
you what,
motel.
that when I got finished with him, he nicely brought me back home. And I did not go and
Amelia
have no
said,
sex.
"Run, Forrest, run."
And then so nigga
Wait a
said,
minute, say unlimited pancakes. He didn't even get the unlimited pancakes.
get her unlimited pancakes.
He was trying to get her muffins.
You know what? I was told on a date before too that
He wanted her muffins.
this guy told me on a date before that all vagina has a price.
What?
Yes, he was like, you know, of course, I buy you things, get you what you want because all vagina has a price. I mean, you're never gonna get the cooch for free.
Well,
literally told me that.
When
And
he realized you can't take nobody to IHOP and think you gonna get some.
because he thought I had the vagina cooch.
It wasn't. He said it was not even.
McDonald's cooch. Okay?
It wasn't even a buffet. It was IHOP.
At least you got IHOP because I was getting a McDonald's.
That's what he was trying to say. He was trying to tell her IHOP in you. That's what he was. That's what he was trying to tell her. He was like, "Girl, did you not get the vision?"
I hop on the poo poo.
Look, he was like, "Do you not get the vision? I hop into you, girl. I hop into you."
No, and that always been very irritating to me. Like when men want to address you or want to just picture in their mind that anything that I do for you, or the next thing is now you got to please me. Oh, well, that it's a problem for me.
Yeah, well, at least he took you to IHOP because a lot of them know you
I
want to
don't
do that
care.
these days. They don't even want to feed you. They just want the buns. They don't even want to feed you these days.
No.
Well, at least I got fed, but my thing, he thought I had the McDonald's cooch. So
Look, he took her to the dollar menu. He said, "Girl, get what you want
Hey,
off
baby,
the dollar
you
menu."
can get anything.
value milk.
You get anything here for $3.99 and under.
Look, he didn't even get her the $5 bill pack. He was like $5 combo. He gave her the dollar menu. He said, "You get one burger, one drink, and one fry." That's it. That's only $3.
I said $3.99 and under. Oh no! I just think that I think it's so disgraceful and so disgusted, and it always been a problem for me for men to even like just suggest it, even if you're not saying it out loud, but just the suggestion, because it's not like he said, "Oh, can you know, after we eat, I like for us to spend some time." No, he just pulled up into and I was like, "Well, where did we go?"
He said he had great expectations, okay? He said he was going to name it and claim it. He said he had.
But see, my whole thing is, when people.
Look, Amelia said you got the 2-for-1 special.
Look,
I give you a bill.
Assume sex with a date, it turns me off. It's just something in me that clicks. And it's like, you could keep your meal, sweetheart, because I could take my own self out to eat. And if that's what you think, you might as well pass.
But he brought you some IHOP and he gave the waitress a tip. He wanted his tip back from you. Okay. He said, because you didn't put nothing out on this meal. So he wanted his tip back.
He said
if you want to date
graphics, okay? And this time
look,
put out.
Look, Amir said he had the nerve to speak it into existence. Speak it into existence. He
Look.
was trying to speak. He wasn't speaking it into existence. He was driving it
He
into
was
existence
driving it.
because he was driving her to the
Exactly.
motel.
But when I got finished with him, he ain't had no words. All that man could do was bring me back home. And I meant it. And I told him that you ain't got to bring me back home. You can leave me right here, baby, and go about your business.
You
Because
don't get enough to tell people to leave you right there.
let me tell you something. Believe me, I have a way to get back home. Because
He's
see,
like,
I don't
"Leave me
want to
right
get in
here."
the car with you and then you be wanting to fight me. Because see, that's gonna be a whole nother level. So
What's that say? Your mom said, "Don't talk if you don't talk that you don't cash a check that you what is it? What's that say? Don't write a check that your butt can't cash."
Your butt can't cash. Exactly. Exactly. And let me tell you something. We would have been tearing up something too. Because I'm
He
telling you,
said
he
the
would
Lord
have
said
killed
keep.
me.
I mean, he said the Lord said keep. He said that the Lord said keep the faith. You will have what you say. So he said he was believing it. He was gonna believe and receive that he was gonna get some boot tag.
No. And no, it was not. And don't even come that way with me. So if that's your if any man want to date me, he know do not come that way because the first time you come that way, Lisa done already shut down on you, and she already got her.
Here's the application. Listen, no
That's
booty
right.
on the first date. Do not take
That's
me to
right.
IHOP because we're not going to no motel.
I never was a person who wanted to have sex when I first meet you. That is not my forte. Even when I was a sinner and didn't know Jesus, it was like if you came that way with me, it was a shutdown for me, and it was like go to somebody else. I don't want to be bothered.
Turn off.
It was
turn
very.
off when they conversate about. We're like, we only been talking for 2 minutes and already. Oh no, you got to
don't even come that way to me. And now that I know Christ, don't even think it in your brains because it ain't happening. I told you what I'm looking for, didn't I? I said I'm looking for a man that want to pay all the bills, don't want me to cook. I don't want to do nothing.
He said you still. He said you still. He said he. Look, he said you still want him to pay for everything and still ain't trying to give up the booty. He was like, oh my goodness.
I said, Lord, maybe that means I'm gonna just be alone by myself, just me and you. Cause look, all right, I done told you what I'm looking for. Okay. Oh, so if it ain't out there, I need the Lord to create them for me.
Amir said they think sex at first sight is it, especially now in 2022. Sex at first sight. It's not love at first sight. It's sex at first sight.
Exactly. No, and I'm not having it. No.
Yeah. So Lady J said he had those expectations because so many women are of the same mindset, and it was me too for a while. But I thank God I came to my senses and realized my worth. It was what you can do for me. Yes, and it is like that because a lot of like, what can you do for me? You know, yes. And you know.
It was wine and dine me, and then we, if you wine and dine me, then the next thing was, I sex you up. I just never been. That ain't never
listen
been.
To that song too much. I want to sex you up.
No,
somebody had that song on replay.
It just always. I don't know. Maybe God put that in me, but it's always been like I don't like that, and I don't like for men to degrade women's in the public. Even if I'm your woman, do not touch my backside and don't be feeling on me outside. That is, did you want me to get?
You don't want nobody smacking you on the booty when you're on?
No, don't touch no. And even when I was married, I used to tell my husband, I'd be like, do not touch my backside when we out. Don't be rubbing on my butt. You don't be having to do all those things. That's privately. I don't like for people to do it in public. I don't. It bothers me. And when women's allow their men to do it, it's a turn off for me.
Been married to me on Lisa, because I'll be the offender, okay? Because I'll be slapping Chris's butt.
Poor Chris.
I don't do that.
Lady say because that's low self-esteem will have you doing and allowing some crazy stuff. That's true. When you have low self-esteem, it will allow you doing a lot of crazy stuff and giving up a lot of things and doing a lot of stuff that
because he did that one time, and I said, please don't do that. I said, something goes through me when that happens. I said, that's private between me and you.
Rashad,
What we do in the bedroom, that's between me and you. People in the street don't have to see that. They know I'm your woman. I'm with you.
Rashad said you look like Aunt Gail.
What?
Rashad, he said, Lisa, you look like Auntie Gail. She did.
Yes, she does.
Just a little lighter. Just a little lighter.
Oh my goodness, no. So let me tell you something.
Better off than me, Aunt Lisa, because I was stupid.
No, but sometimes
She said, I was stupid.
I was stupid. I was giving.
I don't believe that it's
She said
stupid.
she was giving it away for free. At least you got some pancakes. She was giving it away for free. She was giving her muffins away for free.
No, I just think that, like she said,
you said sometimes what? You pay for it. She said sometimes she had that whole game backwards. Look, she had the game backwards.
She had to use her own trick.
She was like, baby, what can I clean and wash and do? How much you want for some of that right there, boy? Boy, let me take you out and
get you a new outfit.
Put you with some new shoes.
Pay your phone bill.
Oh no. Look, I think
that's and I cook your milk, boy. Give me some of that.
I'm every woman that's all in me.
Yeah. He said, boy, just give me some of that.
Thank the
Look,
Lord.
I think I had a look.
She heard Kurt Franklin song. Give me that joy I can't explain.
Now, Asia, bill just to ease my pain.
Now, Asia, I think I had your grandmother. I had that spirit of your grandmother in me when it came to that, because there was one thing that was not. I was not having it, and I didn't like that. I don't like for people to do it. Don't even start talking that. You start talking sex, that's the wrong way.
I tell you, but a lot of people do use sex as a weapon
for everything, and I never
use sex as a weapon.
I never liked that. I never because I felt like it was always like a degrading to women. It's like you feel like that's all a woman is good enough for you is to just give you sex. Like there's nothing else about me that you may want or see. The only thing that I'm good for is just to give you sex. And it to me,
I think when men think that way, I think when those men that think that way, they don't be like, okay, don't look at you and be like, this is something. Well, for one, a lot of them is worldly men, they're not saved. So of course, that's the first thing they look at is the outer beauty, and then and then that's what they have their mind on. They think about that, and laying down with you or being with you, that kind of thing. A lot of men don't look at you and be like, okay, how can I build with this person? How can look at you and be like, she got such a sweet spirit, that kind of thing. They don't look at
intelligent or whatever.
But only ones that look at you like that is those that really listen to the Lord, the ones that have a relationship with the Lord. If they don't have a relationship with the Lord, they're not going to look at you that way.
Exactly.
Some of them, the first thing they're going to look at will be like, that booty is banging, and I need to get into some of that. Or then someone be like, I need to wife that because I don't want nobody else to have that, that kind of thing. So that would be it. But a lot of men, the first thing they're gonna look at is not, oh, she got such a beautiful mind.
Well, I mean, they say that sex is one of the men
first.
Right.
Yes, because a man, like they said, that's one of their first, priority, when they come to the needs of men and the needs of a woman. Like I heard a lot of ministers says, sex is one of the higher rankings when it comes to a man, because everything is visual when it comes to a man, they see, with the eye and everything. Julia. And I understand that, but I just think if like you said, these were unsaved men. And so if you're talking now for men that are saved, okay, they're looking more than they're looking at your beauty, but they're looking at you as, are you the one that God has for me, because I'm looking for destiny and connection and partnership. But even
that's for men who are saved.
That's saved. But
there are men who are saved and not delivered, and they still see what they're And they still see what they
See the
have.
natural eyes and not their spiritual eyes. Yeah.
Exactly, but
So looking good, and that skirt was a little bit shorter than the one she wore last Sunday.
yeah.
Oh.
So
Yes.
I realized that I had to make a man respect me, whether you wanted to or not.
And sometimes
So
you do.
even when I was not saved and being out there, and I was never really a street person, but calling myself being out there, because I was always a homebody and I hung with people who liked to run the streets. So then I would be out there with them. But see, I always stuck out because even when I was with these people, other people will always say, you're different than them. Because I always carried myself different and I always presented myself different. So when men used to come up to me, I would be in bars with my friends, which I was never a bar person, but I would just be there calling myself being cool and hanging. And men would come up to me. I had one man say to me, he was like, "You rough." So I said, "Excuse me." He said, "You rough." He was
She
like,
still is, y'all. She still is rough.
he was like, you just, he said, I came over here to offer you a drink and I said, well, I didn't ask you for one. And I said, but
That's why dude took you to IHOP and wanted to get some food because he said he ain't gonna ask you. Because you're gonna say no.
He's single right now, amen.
This is the reason why I said it, because you didn't just come over to offer me a drink. You came over to offer me a drink because you had a motive for offering me the drink. And your motive was...
Lady J said, I wish I had been able to hang with you when I was younger. Laugh out loud.
Yes, because when I started talking to him...
Where you at, Lisa, when I was dating all my crazy...
Look, but when I was talking to him, you know what he said to me? He said, you know what? I ain't even mad at you. No, because it was true. Like, you can't, I'm just sitting there minding my business. It's my friend that I'm with. She all of the, with the man, and that's what she was there to do. It wasn't me. That was not my forte.
Oh, we gotta sell it back, yeah.
And he said to me, "You're right, because I seen you sitting here, and I thought if I get you a drink, that maybe somehow, some way, that me and you could get together." I said, "Exactly," and he
wasn't even trying to offer you no food. He was just wanting to get you drunk.
But then when I started talking to him,
get you something to drink so you hydrated. So when we get down to business,
you won't be thirsty. But
I just want to say sorry, ladies. My phone died, and then I have having service issues, so I'm in a place where it's quiet now, and I got some better service. And a phone charger, y'all. I had to get a phone charger. This was crazy.
Well, our conversation diverted from abuse to pretty much knowing your worth and not letting men take you to IHOP and thinking they can take you to the hotel.
I know that's right.
And also it turn to, don't let a man buy you 1-2 drinks and think you can take me to a hotel.
Look, I'm just telling you. I feel like, look,
Lady J say, sis, you missed out. That's what Lady J said to you.
I'm gonna go back and replay it on YouTube.
These conversations always go left. They always go crazy.
I think we needed your book anyway.
Amen.
Excuse me for 1 minute.
Because you know what? I feel like also, and that confidence that she has also might have derived from the fact that those insecurities weren't planted because of being sexually assaulted. Because I believe also when you have been sexually assaulted, when you have been mentally, emotionally abused and stuff, and you have begun to see yourself as less, you do begin to just settle for things. You just, just tend to just do things just because you just think that, well, this is just how it always was, or whatever the case might be. And so you do begin to devalue yourself in relationships, and you don't really, see your worth sometimes, and then you settle for behaviors that you shouldn't. You accept relationships that are not beneficial to you or help you, and you get in relationship with men that aren't good for you, and sometimes you don't have that confidence to really do things the way like Aunt Lisa do.
But did Jay say facts? She said facts.
Because you'd be like, oh, you're like paying attention to me, and you actually see me, and I'm not like, someone you're just trying to force. I guess for me it was just like, oh well, at least you're not trying to force yourself on me. At least you're having a conversation with me, and I'm like, to even have a conversation with you, especially when you've been abused or called out your name or seen as unpopular, which was definitely my case as a youth. I wasn't, I was always like called ugly or things like that, yet these same people who were calling me ugly were sexually assaulting me behind closed doors. So it's like, I just didn't see myself worth anything. And then it was just like somehow that all that sexual abuse became an addiction for me, where it was like, where I started wanting to control it so bad, and feeling in control, and seeing how much it can make someone do what I wanted to do, and started feeling powerful in that I became an addict. It was just like, if you're not down, I start becoming like a guy. I would literally date people and date guys, and they would be like, you act too much like a guy for me. But with the N word. You act too much like a guy for me, or whatever the case might be. And I started, like, well, maybe I need to become like a guy. Like, you're not going to use me, I'm gonna use you, kind of thing. And then it was like, well, if you ain't trying to put out, why are we even in this car? Why are we even having conversations? So now I have guys like, I'm like, what are you acting all vulnerable for? Like, you should know what we already came to do. Like, if you're not trying to put out, like, why are we even here? Like,
Oh,
yeah, I would like, really, I would be mean too. Like, I'd be ready
tell
to
Lisa, you're on mute, Lisa.
wasn't
Lisa,
trying to
your
put
thing
out.
is mute.
That's
But
a form of abuse too, because she start becoming like the abuser.
Yeah, I did.
She became crazy. That's what she became.
Thank the Lord.
She became not only crazy, lustful crazy at that.
Yes, I was like, I would tell people, I'm like, I became almost like a whole succubus, because I'll be like, I'll be ready to fight you. Like,
Wow.
you're not trying to give me none. Like, what?
I think with me, I had a totally opposite effect. My thing was, I think I was more of, let me help you. I think I had a problem with trying to fix people, or like wanting to be that person. Not so much fixing them, but always want to be
Trying to
that
save
person.
them.
Let me
I ain't
help
trying
you.
to- Yep,
Let
I
me
ain't
let
trying
me help you get.
The
Let me help you
wounded
get.
and downcast ones, yeah.
See,
Yeah,
I went through all those phases. The knight in shining armor complex. That I need to be a man now. And then also that's when I got into, my homosexual relationship. Now it's like, oh, men are evil, and so I can love you better than a man. And then I became trying to be a man, totally just engulfed myself and trying to be a man. Matter of fact, my sister and my mom, we were all talking about that other, what was it, yesterday or the day before yesterday?
I think it was the day before yesterday.
And like, my sister didn't know that, even after I had got saved, that I was still in homosexual relationships. So when I was like talking to her about it, she was like, girl, you transformed into a whole man in front of me. I was like, Tyrone? Who's Tyrone?
Yeah, she started calling her Tyrone. She was like, she really took that saying, you better call Tyrone, to the heart.
Yeah, I literally
became Tyrone.
A whole nother like persona. I had a whole nother persona, a whole nother person that people did not see. You know, I
Mm.
fluctuate and
And
literally
I
multi personality disorder.
Is
and
that what
I
you
Wow.
went
talking about? You
total.
felt like you need to be my man?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm serious.
Wow.
We had this
yeah, we
conversation like
really
2 weeks
did.
ago. We had this conversation because they some classes that she was taking, and I happened to walk in. I had the doctor's appointment when I got in the car. They was talking about it, and I was like, I was feeling the same way, like always having to do everything perfect, everything right and stuff. And so we got to that, and I was like, I felt that way because of the simple fact that I always felt that everything I did, everything that I did, that my mother, I could never please her with things that I did. I just felt like I could never please her with what I did. You know, I just felt like I felt that it was always, I felt like, not my sister don't know it that, but I always felt that she would pin me and her together. She would say things like we was working and I had brought me a refrigerator and stuff, and I brought me a bedroom set and stuff like that. And I stopped buying my own food and put my food in my refrigerator. And I remember her saying to my sister, "Oh, don't be like your sister, Lisa. Don't be like your sister, being stingy and stuff like that." Or, it was just little things she would say. And then, like when I did get saved, and I was like going to church, all I was doing was going to church. I was singing on the choir and stuff at my church, and then I was going to school, and that's all we were doing. And then we did, like, the church we was going to, they did a lot of recording. So we would go over to New York and things like that, and Brooklyn and the Bronx and stuff, and we would record. And I was singing, and I was singing at all the services. And then I would go to school, and sometimes I used to then get home until like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Then I had to get up and go to school and things like that. And like there was days like she would still say something like sarcastic or smart to me, and so I always felt that I could never do anything to please her, like no matter what I did, so, and I think I just grew up with that mentality that I'm going to just show her that I could be better than what she think I am, so, and so I always put on that, got to give my 100, like there could never be flaws in anything I did. And so we was
Your
talking
mother
about
was
that.
your mother was a little bipolar and crazy, until
Yeah, well, I
Jesus.
didn't know that until I got older. But that's what I always felt. I just felt like she'll do things and then she'll come
But
back
she did
later.
that with all of us.
Yeah,
Because it was the same thing with me. Because I always felt like, I was the messed up child. Oh, you got pregnant at young age. Teresa was a little older, but I was the one who everything was wrong because, I was a teenage mom and it was this, or it was that. But then at the same time, I was the one that she put a lot of the responsibility on. So I felt like I never had a childhood. And my grandmother,
I
which
felt
was
that
my
way
father's
too.
mother, who we was raised up around, even though we was around both our grandmothers, we never knew our grandfathers, but our grandmothers we both knew. But we was under my father's mother mostly because she bought the house and we all lived in the same home together. We all had our own separate apartments, but it was her home. She had like a 3-family home. So I, I was always very close to my father's mother. And even before she passed, she said to me one day, she said, I prayed for all my kids and all my grandkids. And I had all y'all names sent to be written in Jerusalem, in the walls of Jerusalem. And I was like, Jerusalem? I was like, what's that, Grandma? She said, the holy place. I said, the holy place, because I knew nothing about,
yeah,
Don't call
yeah.
really,
her
I really didn't
grandma. She
know
was an
anything
angel.
about that. But we always had a sense of godliness in our home because my mom was raised up Catholic and she
Mm-hmm.
always prayed, even no matter what she did. My mother was an alcoholic and she got over that, but even in her drunken state, my mother would not go to bed till she did her cross, her Hail Mary, whatever it was that she was doing.
Yeah, Mary
She
feeling
always,
grace.
so we always had that. And even when we was young, me and my brother used to always go to church and everything, even if my mom didn't go. But my grandmother said to me, she was like, yes, I had your name written down in the holy place. And I was like, the holy place. And that's the first time I ever heard of, Israel and Jerusalem. And I really didn't really understand it still. But she said, it's one thing I prayed, Lisa, and I always ask God to be with you. And I was like, what, Grandma? And she was like, because you never had a childhood. She said this to me. She said, you never had a childhood. Your mom and dad always put a lot on you at a young age. and I seen you grow up and you never had a childhood. And I didn't, but I didn't even recognize it until she said it. But then when I got a little older and I'm already a mother of two now, even when I had friends, when they would talk about things that they did when they were child, oh, you remember when we was in high school and we went to the concert? And I said, I ain't never go to no concert. I was like the Eddie Murphy. Oh, we ain't never had that. I ain't never get. So I started looking back at it, and even people who were older than me, like I was always around older people. I always hung around my aunts or my uncle, my mother, brother, or his lady friends or whatever. And everyone always used to say that I act more mature than I should have been at the age that I was. So even when I hung around my cousins and them, anyone that was older used to always say, she act different than them. And it was because they still act like their age. They were children, so they act like a child, but I always stood in like a grown-up mentality because I had to grow up faster than maybe what I should have. Mm-hmm. So even when I did become an adult, people always said to me, I always felt like I was not smart. I always felt like, someone was always smarter than me, this and that. I didn't get no degrees from college, and, I didn't have no college degrees or anything, and so I always felt like I was never really a smart person. But when I would talk to people, they always used to say, but you know what, Lisa, you may not never went to college, and you may not feel like because you don't have no degrees from college. She said, one woman said to me, and she was a woman that went to our church. She said, but I'm going to tell you what you do have. She said, you got a college and life experience. And sometimes, baby, that's better than anything college could ever give you. And she said that to me. And when she said it to me, it really, it did something to me because I always felt like someone else was smarter, someone else was this, or someone else was that. But people always used to come to me. I'd be like, well, what they coming to me for? I ain't got no college degree. Sometimes I'd be saying, spell that word again. How you spell it? But they will always come to me. And when she said to me, she said, but see, God has given you a degree in life. And she said, and everything, she said, that's why people, she said, girl, I'm talking to you and you done blessed me and you don't even know that you blessed me. So I said, really? So she said, yes. And so when she said that to me, it kind of gave me a self-worth for myself. And even though, even when it comes to my kids and their friends and different things like that, they always come to me, but I've always been kind of like a no nonsense person. It's like, I can have fun with you, but then it's like, okay, business is business. And we ain't got time to be playing now, okay?
But it's funny you say that, Lisa, because I tell my age all the time. I said, that's why I have Lisa on these Women Power Wednesday and these Kingdom Conversations. I said, because going to POP, I was like, Lisa have learned so much stuff. And then she keeps it all to herself. And I was like, that's why I have her on there. I said, Lisa knows a lot of stuff, but she just keep it all to herself.
You that man that the Lord was talking about in the Bible who had a coin and buried his coin and didn't do nothing with it. That's you.
Wait a minute. Now, Lisa, Amelia said you smarter than me. You get paid and pay bills first. I get paid and go check Chick-fil-A and for a Cobb salad.
So crazy. Well, Prophetess Belly asked a question. She said, could turning to women have been a defense mechanism to keep men away? It definitely was. I see men as evil. I definitely seen
you
men
did.
as evil. Because at first I seen my father as evil. And I was being sexually abused by boys in my neighborhood. And then, I was being abused by stepfather and watching my stepfather abuse my siblings. And, and then watching my mom get her heart broken and be mistreated by men. So I started seeing men as evil. And even though I was sexually assaulted by women too, at least with women, it wasn't painful. it wasn't as painful as it was with, you know, a man penetrating you and things like that. And so, you know, it's like, you know, I just the thought of a man touching me or trying to penetrate me was disgusting. Like I just seen it as gross. Like
That's how my mother was.
That's
That's
the
how.
same. You know, when I got molested, I didn't see the men as evil. I saw them to be scary. So I was very scared of men, and then I turned to women. Um, and because I was so fearful of a man, and then I got into when I got back with a man, I was in a long relationship. So I never even experienced the dating. Nobody ain't take me to IHOP.
Oh, don't y'all start with my IHOP.
that's what I'm saying. Like at least she got the IHOP. I want to know
Right.
the IHOP deal because I wasn't getting the
I think that's I think that's an issue too. Because like for me, I'm starting to date myself, like go places myself, learn more about
Yes.
me. But I didn't date. It was like I went from this relationship, long relationship with this woman. Well, first with this man, then a long relationship with this woman, and then a long relationship with this man. And it was like, it wasn't really like I was dating. I didn't date. I didn't go out and explore the world.
Well, now this was
I was in
different
a
for me
relationship, then I became a mother.
because you was in relationship. I didn't stay in the. Now I have two children, okay, and they have two different dads. And the reason why, because I keep telling y'all, I have this problem now. If you start acting the wrong way, you got to go. I'm not dealing with you. So I
I
was
should have did
always
that
like
too.
that in my I was always like that in my life. So even when I got in the relationship with my son father, he was my first love. He was my puppy love. I was just so in love with him. But because he was, one of them men, young boys who just wanted girlfriends here, and he was dating and dealing with everybody, because I felt like he was only supposed to be with me, I couldn't tolerate it. So it was like, okay, now I'm pregnant from you. I don't want to be bothered no more. Go about your business. I'll take care of my baby by myself. I don't need you. Okay. So that was that relationship. Then when I got to my daughter's father 5 years later, even though I did have a baby in between there that I lost, it was with every man that I dealt with. It was like if I couldn't get what I wanted out of them, or they wasn't doing what I expected from them, I had no tolerance. So it was like goodbye. I'll be by myself. I'll do what I need to do. I put myself in this position. I just had to do what I got to do. And I did that through all my life until I got with my husband. And when I got with my husband, he was something too that I realized I didn't really want, but I was already married. And the Lord let me get married and then find it out because the Lord had something for me to do. And you know what he had me to do? He said, Lisa, I prayed, I cried, I did everything to get out. I said, Lord, I want this marriage to know I'm not dealing with this. And he said this to me. He said, Lisa, everything you've been taught, you're going to have to live it. You're going to have to walk through this. And I was like, I don't want to. I want to get rid of this one. And he was like, nope. He said, you're going to live the life that you've been taught in the word, and you're going to do it through this marriage. And he had me do it. And it was something that was very hard for me to do because I didn't want to do it. But I had to yield my will to God because I wanted to run. And he told me I had been running all my life. With
Amelia
every
said he was
relationship that
Lucifer.
I was in, I always ran. It was like, as soon as you're not doing what I need to do, I got to go or you going. So I never stayed in a relationship long enough to really even work on the relationship because it was like, as soon as you act stupid, you got to go.
I was like
So
a lot like Asilla too, though. I never really dated either. Like I was just in relationships. Like it wasn't like, okay, let me pick you up, let's go out to eat, and we was friends and all that kind of stuff. No, it was like I was just like that too. Like my kid's father, straight into relationship, and actually he was like when I first met him, he actually had a girlfriend that I made him get rid of, and then got into a relationship with him, then I got pregnant with Niaja and stuff. And like now I was in a 7-year relationship with him. And then after that, me and him had 3 kids together. And then after me and him split, there was a couple hit and misses in between that. But then uh, and then I got into a relationship with my youngest daughter father, and then we wound up getting married and stuff. So it was never like I never dated. I just went straight into relationships.
Yeah.
So I never really.
That too. Like I went from relationships back to back. Like I would get out one relationship and then it wouldn't be soon after that I would end up in another relationship. And so I would have long, periods of relationships. And then like when I got my first divorce, I prayed to the Lord because I was trying to fight for that marriage. I wasn't trying to let it go. And the Lord was like, no, you need to let that go because I didn't tell you to marry him in the first place. And I was, and the Lord said, it says, whom the Lord joined together, let no man separate. That means I do the separating. And I didn't even tell you to marry this man. That's why you went through all the stuff that you were going through, hair loss, all kinds of stuff. Like literally, all the curses of Egypt, I was having it.
You had all the
Hair
plagues.
loss, breaking out in rashes. I mean, just nothing.
You had all the plagues.
Right. She did. She was like, call me up, Mom. My hair from my hands got rashes all over with it. I was like,
she had all the plagues.
She like, calling me.
All the issues that I had when I was a child. And when I got saved, all those issues went away. Skin, eczema problems, all that stuff went away. I got married to this man. All those things came back. Every childhood issue, allergies, eczema, skin rashes, and then plus some stuff I never experienced before. It didn't make sense. I'm like, what is it? I would get random swelling in different areas and stuff. Didn't know where it was coming from or why it was happening. Go to the doctors. They have no medical explanation. And so then I knew, okay, this is something
spiritual
happening. Even my own cycle, feminine cycle changed. Like where before I would go long periods without having one, but when I would have them, it would be a normal flow. But now it was like I would have them, but they would just be spotting. I wouldn't have a normal bleed or anything like that. It would be like just spotting. And the whole time I was, married to him and stuff like that, like my whole body was changing. I was going through all kinds of stuff, and literally, I started having panic attacks. And
I was like, girl, come on out here to Arizona. I had to get her away.
Like literally, the doctor was like, if you don't get out, he's like, I'm not someone to tell them what to do in their marriage, but it was a doctor. It was like, and that's what made me take it serious. He was like, if you don't get out of this relationship, it's going to kill you. Because there's no way that someone should be able to run your blood pressure up this high. This is ridiculous.
So I was like, come on to Arizona. Come on.
But when I did let him go and everything and, allow, and I went through a depression because I started thinking about all the things I lost in that marriage, all the things that I gave up. It was like, man, like my whole destiny and everything got altered because I gave up recording. I was teaching on the radios. I was doing all kinds of stuff. And I like literally doing music and all kinds of stuff and literally gave up my whole life. So it felt like my whole destiny just derailed. And then I found out later that he was a warlock, no wonder all the curses of Egypt came upon me. Kind of thing.
You know what? That's how you know when a relationship is not good. Because if that person is not adding to your life and all they doing is taking like leeches and stuff, then that is a very unhealthy. If they're not adding, who is that? Apostle said that. But how he said it again?
There's 4 types of people. He said that you will have come into your life. He said you will have those that will add, multiply, divide, and subtract. He said now it's up to you to realize who's in your life and who you're going to allow into your life. And that's one thing my mother used to always say that my daughter was good at. She don't want nobody that's attractive. She want anybody that's adding or multiply.
And
Okay.
she just said that. She said, add and multiply to your life. She said, not those that subtract and divide.
I
Yeah.
know that's
So
right.
she
You
used to
either gonna
always say that.
And then Rashawn said, Amelia, word cousin.
Yeah, so she used to always say that about my daughter, you know, and so, and it's the truth. But I understand that too, Naija. But some, I heard people say, "Oh, God won't give you this, and God won't let," but it's not true. See, there's some things God will give you a hard place to be in, because he needs to mold some things in you, or he needs to take some things up out of you, and sometimes he needs to build some things in you. So sometimes the things that we go through in life is not always the enemy or something that we may even did wrong. Sometimes it's things that God is allowing to happen because there's things that he needs to do within us,
But
because
sometimes
he knows the destiny that
sometimes
he
we
has
put
called
ourselves
us.
in situations too,
Yeah,
though.
somehow we put ourselves into
Not
situations,
listening.
but then he will help us through it. But then
definitely my
we got to go through it. So when it came to my
Your daughter said, "Yep, that's my ex-husband." He said, "Well, God is preparing her for Denzel. Denzel got a husband. I mean, a wife. He got a wife. So what
but
you talking?
that's
He
what
ain't.
my mom
She talking about
that's what
hollers.
my mom told me when it came to my marriage. She said, Lisa, because she used to always say things. I'd be like, I'm not telling her nothing because she always got something negative to say. But she said, okay, I'm not gonna say nothing when you come to me about your marriage, but there's one thing I do want to say to you. She said, I don't believe that this marriage is going to be forever. She said, I believe God gave it to you for two reasons. One, you was very rough, Lisa, and God needed to,
tenderize that heart.
soften you up.
Some heart tenderizer.
She said, God needed to soften you up. And two, because I think that he put you in the relationship for him to get to know God and really know who God really is for his life. So he used you to bring him to God, but he also used him to do a work in you. So when she said that, at first I ain't want to hear that, because I ain't want to hear that. But I always tell people, sometimes people say things to me and I don't want to hear it, but I never throw it away. I may not like what you're saying, but I always take it later. And when I'm with the Lord or I'm in my private time, I think about the things people say to me and I go to the Lord and I have to, heed to what people are saying, because sometimes people tell you the truth and the truth always hurt. You don't want to hear the truth.
They said the truth shall set you free.
So,
Now
but
be
it will
free.
set you free. So when my mother said that to me, I knew in my heart that me and this man was not going to be death do us part. I knew it in my heart it wasn't. But I didn't realize that the cycle he was bringing me through was really beneficial for the both of us. And it was something that I had to experience. So once I really yield myself to God to go through it, because I'm gonna tell you, it was, it was a rough one. I didn't want to yield, and I really was fighting against it. But when I really yield, everything that I experienced, God, I could always see him in it. And I could always see him moving and doing. And even though I tell people my marriage it was a hard one. I'm not going to say that it was really a bad, it was just stressful, but it was a hard one. It was a real hard one, but I seen the grace in it. And I experienced, and the things that I experienced, I've learned a lot from it. So it made me, it did tenderize me because, I'm a rough one. Yes. And I
I
keep
think
telling
with
people.
everything you go through and every marriages or relationship you go through, you should take something away from that
And learn
somehow
from it.
and make you better.
Yes.
And whether it was good, bad, abusive or not, there's just something that you should take away from that relationship that should make you better, not worse, but it should make you better.
better.
I
It
definitely
is.
learned how to be single, and like even to the point where I enjoy, like after I got that, got that separation, I'm like, this is the first time in a very long time in my life that I actually am single. Like, and I started listening to Dr. Miles Monroe, The Myth of Singleness, and really learning how to be a single human being. Just Niaja. Just learning how to be Niaja, love Niaja, let God love Niaja. And I realized, my whole life, I've never really truly, been like alone or whatever. And then it was like getting to the place where I was enjoying it so much that even when I was like, dating Chris, when he did ask me to marry him, I almost told him no because I didn't want to give up the freedom.
Your freedom.
I didn't want to give it up and stuff. And even with what you were saying, Lisa, absolutely right. Because even when I went through the stuff with my current husband, now this marriage, God was saying, no, I don't care if you're not happy about this, you ain't going nowhere. I have a
Yes.
plan for this marriage, and you're gonna stay in it. So I always say, some people, God gives the courage to go through something, go through it, through what you need to go through. That's where you get some relationships that are abusive, and that man does end up getting delivered, and they do have a really good marriage after that. So some people, God gives the courage and the strength to go through something,
Yeah,
and
the grace.
some
Yeah.
people, God gives, the grace and the courage to leave.
Yes.
And so
That's true.
sometimes we have to know what's the difference.
Well, he didn't give me the courage or the to leave, but I fasted and prayed and asked him, now, if you want me to stay, I'll stay, Lord. But I'm gonna tell you my heart, because you already know I don't want to do this anymore.
Amen. Well,
But
I know we're like pushing like 2 hours here. We get caught up in these conversations and stuff.
don't start nothing and it won't be nothing.
So I would say, Asila, just
I need her website. I'm gonna get that book. I'm gonna give it to some
website for
people.
your book, because we know a lot of people who
Yes. I
Mhm.
want to read it. I might have been abused and don't know I was abused.
I need a
So
copy.
There's
if
all
you
forms of abuse. There are
so if
times.
you
That's
want to
right.
if you want to buy a signed copy from me, I do have copies.
Hold on, she disappeared.
Yeah, she disappeared.
Asila, are you still there?
I know she
Maybe.
said you
Okay,
you
there
want.
she is. I see her now.
Yeah.
On. I think
Tell
it.
her, give it to us. I want to.
Oh, her phone is breaking up.
Well, I think she
Yeah.
said if you wanted a signed copy that you can get
Can
it from
y'all
her.
hear me?
Okay,
Okay, there you
yes.
go. There you go.
No way.
What?
Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. There you go.
Really?
She
I'm
said,
delayed.
really?
Okay, there you
Am
go.
I delayed?
Not anymore. You was at first, but not no more.
I'm good now.
Yeah, you good now.
Yes.
I'm live. I'm live and popping.
She sound like Teresa. It's on and popping.
So if you want to get a signed copy from me, which I do have some at hand, I can mail them out to y'all. You could just send me an email. My first name, ASEEALAH@gmail.com. And my email address, you could just say you want to get a copy of the book and put your address, and I will send you the book immediately right
And we'll
out.
put the email up on the site too. Now, AJ put it up.
Yes. Mhm.
You can also buy it from Amazon. Her Eyes of Awareness on Amazon as well.
Yeah, and we'll copy paste the link into the um live too, so that way if anybody wanted, and if you're not sure, you can always inbox us on Facebook,
And if
Instagram.
you wanted to buy it, like Lisa was saying, she might want to buy it for somebody else. If you put in the email, you want to buy it for, like, let's say you want to buy it for Lisa, and you say, something about her, because I do pray over all my books when I send them out.
Mhm.
And God might tell me something to write in there, or you might tell me what who it's for, and give them an encouragement word, and I can write an encouraging word to that person.
Oh yeah, we like that personal touch.
Oh, that's
We just get
beautiful.
it from you. We just
Yeah,
prefer
I'd
to get it
rather
from
just
you.
get them from her. Yeah.
Because Amazon ain't gonna pay on nothing. They just gonna throw
They
it in the
sure
box
not.
and send
Right.
it.
And want
So,
their money. That's it.
That's it. We need it when they get to that person to touch that person in a
yes,
way
God.
that will never, that only
Yeah,
God can
because
touch
Well,
you
them.
know
start
what?
that. Come
I
on,
wanna
sis.
pray and ask God who in my family to send it to, because I just think that is beautiful, that book, and I just think we
Yeah.
all need to be
Her
aware. Because
company too. I really hope that y'all, dig in and might want to LLC that thing and or make it expand your business, because they have a lot of stuff like that for people that have kids with autism and things like that, and
Right.
Down syndrome and stuff like that, because those parents do need it. Because I used to be a respite worker when I lived in Jersey and stuff. So
What part of Jersey did y'all live in?
we were from.
Newark, and
Oh,
then we
I'm from
went the
Newark,
wrong
New
way.
Jersey.
Are you?
I'm from Newark. Yep. I used to live on 15th Street and Avon Avenue.
Oh yeah,
Over there where my cousin them was on
my
from. We
cousin.
was on Clinton Place.
Well, we're gonna have to talk
Oh,
sidebar. We're gonna have to talk sidebar to you after this.
definitely.
But
You might be
yeah,
related to some. Y'all might be some long lost cousins and
we
stuff, but y'all are
probably
my
is. 'Cause
sisters.
we do have a lot
We
of
sisters, so
family out there. So you do. So you might be
okay.
right. But yeah,
Oh,
so
man, she gonna be cousin Asila now. That's my cousin.
I'm like, that's where you get that apple hair from, because that do run in our family.
Family genes, okay? Cousin.
Yeah. So, but
That's so funny.
we'll put everything up on the site and everything else. So then that way, um, the people that want it, they can just email
Yes, they
you
could
their
get it.
information and stuff like that.
Yeah, I
But we
definitely
just want to thank everybody for hanging in with us for these 2 hours and 14 minutes that we have been up here chit chatting and everything else, interrupting everybody's lunchtime or their little breaks that they have. We want to thank you for hanging out with us. Join us again next month on our third Wednesday at noon for our next Women Empower Wednesday. And thank you, Asila, for joining us, Lisa, Asia. Those
Thank
are my
you guys for
and
sidekicks,
having me.
all
people.
our viewers,
Uh,
all our
you want
Yes,
viewers.
thank you
to
all for being
subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us here on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. We don't really tweet, but we are up there. So if you want to follow us on that, you can too. We don't really post a lot, but you can. But we're here. If there's anything that you want to want us to talk about that we
Yes.
have not discussed, you can always just send us an email, reach out to us. If you know us personally, you can just text us and regularly, and we'll discuss it, because we never know what people need, but we're here to help it any way that we possibly can. Thank you for joining us, and we see you next
I'm
month, same time, same bat station.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Now Asia got to tell us if we off the air or not.